Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
And we get the back view of him. And I mean, it's just a mega.
52 yards is a long shot. Magnum PI, what we named him. No idea.
Just a magnum.
Yeah, just a magnum.
Come on, Cam last year, we said probably 150, mid 150.
Yeah.
Same doe from the morning come out with that 9-pointer.
Here steps out this 90-inch 8-pointer. You're like,
I'm like, okay, well, there's still a buck back there grunting.
Yeah.
And then out steps like another 90-inch 8-pointer. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
Bro.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm like, deer, right there.
Yeah, like
and he's already
yards.
30 yards.
Yeah.
He was literally 5 yards from the base of the tree. Could have been, had a buck down at 1:40 in the afternoon, back there deep on public. 3 does come out pretty early. It was like 245, 24-yard shot, sent the combat veteran, and I tell you what, man, dude, it just smoked. We always get so jacked up when the other person kills. It's just almost like we got it done.
Yeah. And when you killed that doe, I was like, hell yeah, man.
And we come down here to Missouri.
I asked Comey one more time. I'm like, is it a good buck? And he goes, yeah, real good, solid buck. I'm like, all right, boom. And the deer just drops. Sure. Super special to me.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy. Baller Rut.
Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast, still on the air, coming at you with an absolute banger. We got a legend episode coming at you, public, tradbo, a little bit of suburban action. I don't know what else you guys want. We got it all in this episode.
Sounds like a heater.
This is an epic episode. We got Logan Glassburn on. I'd like to just hang out with this guy on a Friday night. Super solid dude. Really knows how to find some public land bucks. No trail cams, just going in there, raw dogging, and killing giants.
I like it.
All right, let's get into the people that make this possible. Then we'll get into the content because, like I said, this is a heater. Let's start off with the VIP Broadhead. If you guys didn't know, they are slaying the pigs like a mug with the veteran and the combat veteran. That's something that we cannot do here in Illinois. One day, when we make our millions off this podcast, we're going to drive down to Texas and just murder some pigs. Until then, we're going to look at pictures on Facebook of other people doing it. Do you have the VIP shout-out?
Yeah, this week's shout-out is Jeff Tieterman. Jeff served in the U.S. Navy for 6 years. Says he would like to leave his VIP shout-out as that, which we will respectfully do. But Jeff also says that he is honored to be a VIP shout-out on a podcast. So,
nice, man.
Jeff, we are glad to do that for you, as you did way more than that for us. And everybody here at Whitetail Legacy and the VIP family, thanks you, sir.
Just a little tip, the air conditioner is running this whole episode. So if you guys hear the in the background, it's because it's 90 degrees in here, and we got 3 guys, a lot of beards besides homie, and it gets warm in here. Let's get into ECW calls. All your custom call needs, Embry Custom Woodworking. If you want to hunt teal, you want to hunt goose, you want to hunt bucks, turkeys, he's got you. Check him out. Exodus Trail Cams. You have the Exodus Trail Cam tip of the week.
Yeah, as we have found out in a previous podcast, we are going to give the industrial batteries from Energizer a run for their money. In this early season, at least, we can get a 144 pack, I believe, for $77 shipped to us, and they are good up to negative 18 degrees. So no worries if it does get cold on us before we get them switched out. But we are going to give them a run for their money and give them a shot to kind of save some jingle on the lithiums.
Yeah, legend episode, a triple drop time monster up there in Saskatchewan. This guy's running these industrial, he's running an outfit business up there. He's running these industrial batteries. Gave us a really good word on them. We told you guys that we were going to run them. We're making our word true here. We're going to run them. We're going to let you guys know how they do. We're buying 144 of them. So hopefully they're rock solid, right? But we'll let you guys know. Next Level. What you got for Next Level this week?
Next Level is now introducing new seamless national shipping. They have got all their issues worked out, and they are now shipping around the country seamlessly.
And to Canada.
Yeah. Slip that in there. So, guys, I mean, they were shipping before, but now it's just seamless. You guys won't even know any difference. Going to show up right at your door whenever you order it. And you guys can check that out at nextleveldeer.com. No E in the next.
And this is something that seems simple, but this is something they've been working on for a really long time.
Yes.
So shout out to Next Level, Nate and Scott. I know you guys been struggling on this for a while, and props to you for getting it together. You guys are doing big things. We say that a lot, but you guys are really doing big things. And a huge shout out for supporting the podcast. You guys have been super solid friends, and hopefully we can go kill some of Scott's turkeys next year.
On Nate's dime.
Yeah, on Nate's dime. Ingram's Outdoor Obsession, all your taxidermy needs from ducks to deer to turkeys, he's got you covered. All my local guys, check him out. Not only a good taxidermist, but a good friend, solid dude. He just went and hit up one of Nick's food plots for him. Always doing a little extra step, and just a good dude, man. All right, that's it, man. Make sure to check out Attaboys Archery. This is where Logan Glassburn works here. He's a bow tech there, so if you're around the area in Ohio there, I would love to get my bow worked on by this guy.
Yeah.
And check out the Push Archery. He said that they have a film out of his reaction to this. Hopefully he sends me a link. He did kill a absolute giant. What was it, 197?
Yeah.
197, and then that's the second buck in this. So this is a double buck.
The
Public
first
land
one
back to
is-
back. So, all right, here we go. Let's get into the content. All right, we got Logan Glassburn on. We're going to talk a little trad bow, public land, suburban legend hunt. We got a lot going on in this.
Yeah,
one,
right.
but we're going to cover 2 bucks in this legendary series right here. Back-to-back public land giants with a trad bow. Logan, we appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I've seen your picks, man. They're hard to ignore, and like I said, you had said you were listening to the episode, so it's easier to get you on. Then you kind of knew our style and what we had going on, but we kind of got the pregame, and this is going to be a really good episode, guys. There's some really good story here, and a lot of excitement. So go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners a little bit.
All right, and as he said, my name is Logan Glassburn from Central Ohio. I work full-time in an archery shop as a bow tech, so that makes it nice. I can do what I love for a living pretty much, so I get to try out all the new stuff. Even if I do shoot traditional stuff most of the time, I still shoot compound stuff, and I compete a little bit in some archery stuff, so yeah, married, couple kids, just got a new puppy tonight, so that should be interesting.
Busy times.
Oh,
Yeah.
boy, kids and dogs.
Yeah.
A 2-month-old daughter and a new puppy. So
Nice. You'd be solid for about the first year, and then you'd be like, man, a dog or kids got to go.
yeah, yeah.
I
And
was saying,
then my son, he's 4. He'll be 5 in September. So
Nice. Yeah, you're a busy
Yeah,
man. Yeah. Sounds
staying
like us.
busy.
A lot of stuff going on. You're friends with Byron, huh?
yeah, I know Byron.
Yeah, we love Byron,
He's come
man.
into the shop some, and he was talking about getting me on the podcast, but you guys beat me to it.
Yeah, I'm
So-
glad we beat him too. That's pretty
Oh,
awesome.
man.
Yeah, so yeah, we like Byron a lot. He's a good solid too.
we
talked
beat
to him.
Byron at one thing.
Yeah, one thing. Yeah, we talk to him like every other day. It seems
Yeah,
like
for
we
sure.
got some messages going along. So we really look up to him. He's doing some good stuff and just a solid dude. So
Oh yeah, I messaged him just the other day. I'm like, hey man, when you think those new lone wolves are going to be out, so I can have money ready?
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, sometime in June, I think. I don't know exactly.
He's got the inside scoop for
Yeah, he
sure.
does have the inside scoop on that.
Oh, I know. That's why I was trying to weasel my way into a new stand and have money ready.
For sure.
All right, man. Well, like I said, we're going to talk a couple different bucks, back-to-back public land legends here. Go ahead and start off with everyone you want. Go ahead and give a description of the buck before you start the story, and then get into the story.
Okay, we'll start out with the one I killed. I think it was like 2015 or 16. I can't remember. He is really tall, tight. He's only maybe, I think, 15 and some change inside. Main beams wrap around real far. I can only fit maybe 2-3 fingers in between the ends of the main beams. He's got a big split G2 on the one side and a kicker off the other. Big brows, like 8-9 inch brows. Just a really, really cool deer. He might be my favorite buck just because of how unique his rack is. Huge body. I think he field dressed out in like around 235. Just a real big body deer. Took forever to get out of the woods, but so that buck kind of all started. I didn't have really much history with him except for I ended up seeing him about a week and a half before I killed him, and I wasn't even hunting. I was a buddy and I were bow fishing in November just because it was so warm. Deer weren't moving. We're like, forget it. We're not going to hunt in the morning. It's super hot. Let's go bow fishing. And did really good that night bow fishing. It was awesome. But we're back in this cove. This was back before we ran a generator on the boat, so we just had a bunch of batteries in there running our lights. So it was nice and quiet. Back in this cove, probably like 11 o'clock at night, and I could hear a deer walk on the other side of this cove, troll over there, and here's this buck maybe 30, 40 yards off the bank, just standing there looking at us. And he had no care in the world. He's just out cruising looking for does. It was probably November 6th, maybe, when we were out there. And he didn't spook. He just put his nose back on the ground, started walking. Didn't even care we were there. And me and my buddy are like, hey, I think we can hunt this. So we start looking some stuff up right there on the boat. We didn't waste any time, and sure enough, okay, this is some public we can hunt. Neither one of us has hunted it. So we get done bow fishing, and the whole time we're bow fishing the rest of the night, we're coming up with a game plan. Like, okay, we need to come in here and try to kill this deer. So my buddy goes in maybe 3 days after that, and puts on an all-day hunt. Saw a ton of deer. Saw a couple good bucks, nothing he could get a shot at or nothing he wanted to shoot. So the plan was to head back the next weekend and do an all-day sit. So I did a bunch of online scouting, Google Earth, Onyx, and I just kind of found some stuff right around where we saw that buck that looked good. And Saturday morning rolls around. We meet at the boat ramp, get in there well before daylight, get set up. And I've never been in there before, so I'm going up into the timber, and we use the boat to get in there, and I have no idea what it's going to look like when it gets daylight. So I'm just hoping I picked a decent spot where I can at least see and get my eye on something good, and then make a move midday if need be. So it's cracking light, and right off the bat, I look across to another ridge. There's a few does over there. They start working their way right to me. They end up right underneath the stand, and I look back where they came from, and there's a nice 9-point there, probably a 135-inch 9-point. And I thought he was going to come and work the same trail and follow these does, but he ended up going downwind and kind of scent checking these does, and stayed about 40 yards out, and stayed in some thick stuff behind me. So never got a shot at that deer. But he ended up working his way back to where I couldn't see him anymore, and I just kind of made a mental note. Okay, if it gets slow, I'm going to get down and go back there and do a little scouting real quick and maybe set up. So, I had 2 deer tags in my pocket. These does are still right underneath me, and I'm all for killing deer. So I end up shooting one of the does, and I'm hunting with a recurve. There's, like 11-yard shot. Watch her fall over. So I take all my stuff down, go take care of her, and I drag her down, put her in the shade over by the water, and tag her and everything. And then I head back to where I saw that buck disappear. So I get back in there and I start finding a couple real big rubs, and then there's a point that drops down that makes it real easy for the deer to cross, and there was a good trail going through there, crossing at that point. And then on the other side of where I ended up hunting was this this drainage comes back and it kind of stops, and there's maybe 20 yards of flat ground there, and then there's the property line. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm right in between these. This will be good enough for right now. Maybe I'll see something I like, and next time I come in, I can kind of play off of that. So I end up eating my lunch, and it was pretty boring the rest of the day. Finally, about a half hour before dark, I end up hearing something coming. I get ready, and it is a big 10-point, really white rack, just a big frame 10-point. And he was probably like an easy 150, maybe a little bit bigger. And he's coming right down the point. Well, where I set up, that point was a little far. I mean, a compound setup would have been perfect. You could have covered that point and then this other flat very easy. But I had my recurve. Comes down the point, and I'm like, okay, I feel comfortable with this shot. I end up getting him to stop. I shoot, and out of nowhere, I hit a tree. I don't even know how I hit it, but I hit a tree. Buck has no idea what's going on. He kind of spooks, takes off, and stops. By this time, he's out of bow range for me. He settles back down, and he just kind of walks off. So, of course, I'm very frustrated. I'm like, oh, man, I blew my chance at a big deer on public. You know, I thought my night was over. So I start packing stuff up. I only had maybe 15 minutes of light left, of legal shooting light left probably. So I start packing stuff up. And I could hear deer on the other side of this ridge from me down on this bottom. So I threw out a couple grunts, not really expecting anything. Wait a few minutes, nothing. So I start packing stuff up some more. I even put my pull-up rope on the bow, and I'm ready to get out of the tree. Now I still have light left, but I was so frustrated. I'm like, yeah, I'm just ready to make my way back to the boat. I'm gonna leave. Well, I hear a deer coming. I throw out a couple more grunts, and all of a sudden I see a rack come over the top of this ridge. Grab my binos. He's probably maybe 50, 60 yards. I look and I see a big split G2, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is the buck that we saw from the boat. How am I even seeing this deer a week and a half later? So I get ready. I have to take my rope off my bow, get ready, and I'm kind of in autopilot now. It's the buck I wanted to try to shoot if I went in there, and I just got lucky enough and finally saw him. Comes in, I draw back, I grunt to stop him. He doesn't stop. Normally, I would freak out there and lose full concentration, especially with my recurve. But somehow I kept it all together. I grunted again, and he finally stopped. And he was trying to figure out where the grunt came. Well, as soon as he stopped, I picked my spot and let it fly. And luckily, I was using a lighted knock. And I watched that lighted knock fly, disappear, and then reappear again behind him. And I started freaking out, like, holy cow! I just hit this deer. I just hit this deer. And I knew it was kind of a far shot, but I didn't know how far it actually was. And later on, the next day, I ended up ranging it, and it ended up being 38 yards where my arrow was at. So I shoot this deer. He takes off. Well, I grab my binos to follow him. I get my binos on him, and all I can see is his rack. And I'm like, he only made it maybe 20, 30 yards from where I shot him. And I'm like, okay, go down. I'm going to watch him fall down. This is going to be awesome. And all of a sudden, he stands up. He was already bedded, not even 10 seconds after I shot him. And I'm like, okay, something's not right here. I know I didn't heart shoot him because he wouldn't have stood up. I know I didn't hit lungs because he would have probably went a little bit further. And then once he goes down, he's probably not going to stand back up again. I probably didn't gut shoot him. So I figured, okay, well, I had to hit him in the liver. So I watched this deer, and I am literally right on the edge of a mowed yard. I can see houses. Earlier in the day, I was watching somebody drive around in a golf cart. So I'm like, oh man, I hope he doesn't go out into these people's yard. So I'm watching him. He beds back down. I'm like, okay, good. Boom, he stands back up. Beds back down. And then all of a sudden I hear something coming. I look over and I see lights coming. And there's a driveway and there's a truck coming down the driveway. Light shining right on us. Now, obviously they can't see us. We're in the woods, but these people get out of they get to their house, get out. You know, they're only 250 yards away from us, maybe. Buck stands up. He's watching them. They go in the house. Everything calms back down. Buck lays back down, and then I watch him through binos until I can't see him anymore. So I, as quietly as I could, I left everything in the tree. I'm like, I'll be back in the morning. Nobody's going to be in here in the middle of the night. I'm just going to leave everything here. I just took my boat with me and I left. Luckily, I had to go the other way to get out. So I didn't have to go, you know, like way out around them or anything. So I didn't use a light for the first little while until I dropped down in the spot. I turned on my red light, got out of there. Get back to the boat and get the doe loaded up. And my buddy's like, hey, did you see anything good? And I'm like, you're not going to believe this. I shot the buck we came in here for. And he was like, no, really, did you see anything? And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, I shot the buck. I shot the buck that we came in here for. I said, but what makes it even worse is I missed a big one before that. And he's like, oh, geez, you know, you had a good day. I didn't see hardly anything. So we go home. Of course, I didn't really sleep much that night. I'm calling all my buddies on my way home. Finally, next morning, we all meet up there at the boat ramp, load up. And it was me, my buddy, and my dad that went in there. That buck went maybe another 15 yards and bedded up again overnight. And he was dead right there. And got some pictures and celebrated. And threw him on the boat and went to Arby's to get lunch. So
yes.
Yeah. But what made it really bad is it was really... Yeah, it was really warm that day. So the lake was really busy for that time of year. There's people out fishing and all this, and I'm oh God. Like, I do not want to pull out of this cove and somebody see a giant rack. I'm like, this is not going to be good. So, of course, we pull out of the cove, and there's some guys fishing. And I take my jacket, I throw it over his rack, and kind of like try to put his rack down in the boat, and I throw my jacket over it. Of course, these guys, you know, we're only 50 yards from these guys going by them. They can see the body. They can't see the rack, but they can see the body. And, you know, we get up to a boat ramp. There's all kinds of guys up there. And I'm like, oh, God, this is not good. And, you know, oh, man, that's a nice buck. Where'd you shoot that? You know, asking all these questions. So finally we got out of there. And
I just put it in the boat for pics, man. I didn't even shoot it here.
Yeah. So we ended up, we still hunt that spot today. I haven't been in there in the last couple of years. My buddy that was hunting there with me that has the boat, he hunts there quite a bit. He lives a little bit closer maybe than I do. And he killed a good buck out of there this year. His wife almost killed a really good buck. He killed his buck in the morning and saw 2 other shooters in there. He had a big 9-point. Like, he went back to the boat after he killed his buck. Went back to the boat to get some stuff and go back to get his buck. And he had an encounter with a big 9-point at maybe 10 yards. Buck marches right to him. And, of course, you know, he'd already got his buck tag filled, and that 9-point was bigger than the buck he killed.
Oh,
so
perfect.
He's like, hey, you know, he told his wife, was like, hey, this spot is hot right now. You need to come in here with me. Let's go. So they load up that evening, get back in there, and another shooter comes in right underneath the stand, he's on the backside of the tree in a saddle filming, and he could have killed the buck, but she was on the wrong side of the tree and couldn't make a shot. It was a little too thick in there. So it's still a really good spot. We've seen some big deer in there. So
Logan killed the only doe on this piece. Everything else out there is bucks.
Yeah. I mean, this spot gets a lot of pressure. But I mean, it can be good. I mean, one day you might be in there, you might not see anybody, but then the next day there's somebody carrying a 5-gallon bucket and a crossbow, making all kinds of racket. Like you just never know what's going to happen. So, but yeah, it's a good spot. My buddy ran a couple cameras in there last summer and got a couple good deer on camera, but I think he said he found like 2 other cameras in there, and he's like, "Oh, great, I'm going to have company in here this year." But I think he only ran into maybe 1 or 2 guys back in there. So it's still a good spot. Like I said, I haven't hunted it a whole lot since I killed that buck, but he usually hunts it at least a couple times a year, and we seem to have pretty good luck in there.
Yeah, sounds like a great spot, man. And just so listeners know, if that wasn't epic enough, the next buck is even more epic.
Yeah, I didn't think he could really get any better than that. And I'm like, oh man, I killed my biggest buck to date, recurve, public, it was pretty much everything I wanted. And we go into the next year, and I'm like, man, I'm probably not going to kill a deer that big, but I'm going to try. So my buddy, one of my other buddies, was telling me about this piece of public, and he's like, hey man, you should go check this place out. I work down around there, and he's like, I usually see some good deer. Like, you should go check it out. And it's not real close to my house, so it's a little bit of a drive. So I'm like, okay, well, I'll go check it out. Well, this is really late in the summer. This was, when was this? I didn't go in there till the week before deer season started to kind of do just a quick walkthrough and try to just find one spot I wanted to key in on. So I'm like, well, there's probably been a bunch of squirrel hunters in there, people hiking around. I'm not going to hurt anything probably. I'll just make a quick little one-day trip out of it. So I get in there, I park at one parking spot, and I was like, I'll walk all the way through all this stuff. I don't care if it takes me all day. I just want to find one spot. If I find a good spot, I'll key in on that. And then, I'll work my way further back in or whatever from there. So most of the stuff is really thick. And I'm like, man, there's no way I'm going to be able to hunt half this stuff. And I finally find a section of hardwoods. It's got a couple ridges. It's got tons of acorns. And the main thing that I was seeing was no human sign, like no tacks in trees, no reflective tacks, no, canisters of Tink 69. I wasn't finding pop cans or bottles, anything like that. And I'm finding a ton of droppings, a ton of acorns, and there's a ton of rubs in this area. And I'm like, okay, I found my spot. I'm just going to come in here opening day. I'm going to see what happens. And I put a trail camera out, and I'm like, well, I'll put one out for a week, and I'll pick it up first afternoon of season. So I get in there, and one thing I did was I called to make sure I could do it, but I parked in the ditch on the side of a road on this property, and I was in between parking lots. There's a couple big parking lots at this place, and as a crow flies, from these parking lots to where I was hunting was, I think I measured it just as a straight line was 1,500 yards and 1,800 yards from parking lots. And you have to go through a lot of really thick, nasty stuff to get to it. And I'm like, okay, there's probably not going to be too many people back in here. So I park in the ditch. I get all my clothes on, get ready. I get back in there. It's like 3:30, 4 o'clock, which, you know, it doesn't get dark till 8 o'clock, probably early season. And I'm walking in, and I get in the timber. I'm walking down, and all of a sudden I see 2 or 3 does standing there feeding on acorns. You know, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm like, okay, well, this is good. Obviously, nobody's been in here. And it's opening day of deer season. So I figured somebody went back in there, blow a bunch of deer out. So those does finally see me. They spook. I go over to where my trail camera's out. I grab it, climb up a tree, checking my card. And I really didn't have anything good on there. A few does, a few little bucks, but nothing good. And I'm like, well, you know, I could have deer walking 20 yards away from this camera and never be on it. Like, I'm not too worried about it. So I ended up seeing 8 or 9 deer that night. Bunch of does, a couple little bucks, but I was about, they were working the top of this ridge, and I'm like, okay, next time I come in here, I'm going to hunt the other side just below the top of this ridge, and I should be good. So I think the next week, I think I came home. I ended up shooting a doe back here behind the house. And then the next weekend, I go back in there. I hung a stand where I was talking about earlier, and I shoot a doe right off the bat. So I'm like, okay, cool. Kill another doe. I'm just going to leave this spot alone for a little while. So I go, it wasn't till probably the first Saturday in November. And I'm like, this place is going to be packed, but I'm going to go in there and see if I run into anybody back in this spot. Park in the same ditch. I don't see any tracks from anybody from parking there. And my buddy works around there every day, and he's like, hey, man, I haven't seen anybody parking there where you park, so you should be good. Okay, cool. So I ended up going back in there for an evening hunt, get set up, and right before dark, I had a buck and a doe on the other side of this giant ditch over on this other side here. And the doe's just feeding the buck, staying right with her. I couldn't tell exactly what he was. He's probably 150 yards through the woods, but I could tell if he got close enough, I was going to shoot him. I definitely could tell he was a shooter. I just couldn't tell what he was. And I probably only had a half hour of light left. So, you know, I'm throwing everything at him. Everything. I'm grunting at him. He'd throw his head up and look, but he wouldn't leave the doe. I snort wheeze at him, and I've had really good luck snort wheezing big deer in. And that really caught his attention, and he left his doe, and he made it over to this ditch. Or just before he got to the ditch, he kind of stood there and was just scanning, didn't see anything, and I just don't think he wanted to leave that doe. So he turns around and goes right back to her. So it gets dark. Well, I can still hear these deer milling around. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to climb out and bust them. I mean, that's the first good buck I've seen in here. So I sat in the tree stand an hour and a half after dark. And those deer finally, I could hear them walk off, and I waited maybe another 20 minutes to where I couldn't hear them. And I finally climbed down, packed all my stuff up, and went to the truck. So I didn't go back in there till it was November 21st, I believe. It was the day after youth shotgun season, and it was that weekend was super crappy. I mean, raining, nasty weather. And I looked at the forecast, and I saw that Monday was going to be super high pressure. It's the first sunny day after this storm. And I listened to a podcast with Mark Dury on there. He was with, I think, Mark Kenyon on this one a long time ago. Not too long after Mark Kenyon started his podcast.
Two guys you cannot not listen to.
Right.
Right. And,
I mean,
oh, yeah.
they just know what's going on.
Right. And Mark was saying, the first south wind or whatever, the first sunny day after a big front like that, you better be in the stand, especially in November. So I called my buddy, my boss at work, and I'm like, hey, man, I'm not going to be at work Monday. I'm taking vacation day. I'm hunting. Okay, that sounds good. Well, I wasn't sure what kind of hunting pressure was in there during youth gun season. So I set an alarm, go to bed. I wake up, it's already daylight out. And I'm like, oh, God, I overslept. This isn't good. And I'm like, oh, whatever. I'm going to hunt all day. So I got everything packed up. I drive over there. And on my way there, I saw a giant out in a field just dogging a doe. And I'm like,
to motivate you.
Oh, yeah. And I'm like, oh, God, I got to get there. Why did I not wake up in time?
Oh, yeah. That's
And,
me
like,
every day.
Yeah. And I'm not much of a morning person anyway. Like, I have a hard time waking up in the mornings for some reason. So I'm like, it's like 8 o'clock or something like that. And I finally get there. Well, I have to go past where I normally park to turn around and then park in a ditch. So I drive past and there's a tree line, and I get past this tree line and I look over and I'm like, oh, there's 2 bucks with a doe standing there, 150 yards off the road in this grass field on public, just right out in the wide open. Turn around, I drive past them again, and I'm like, man, I'm going to go try to kill that buck right there. So I park, I get out, I get dressed, get all my stuff, and I had a video camera with me and everything, and I didn't take it with me. I'm like, I'm not going to mess around with the video camera. I'm just going to go try to kill this deer. So I sneak over, I get to the tree line, I kind of peek around, and this tree line goes for probably 100 yards, and then it jolts out, and then it goes right back in. Well, these deer on the other side of where it jolts out. So I have plenty of cover. So I make my way down, and I get set up. I got a longbow with me, but I didn't really have a whole lot of cover. Well, then all of a sudden, here comes this doe back towards me, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm kind of stuck here now. So I just tuck up against this fence row, and I'm just sitting there. Doe comes into maybe 20 yards, directly in front of me, broadside, and she knows something's not right. She's looking at me, and she put her head down, bring it back up, what they always do. Well, the 2 bucks that were with her are kind of back on the other side of this little piece that jolts out. Well, the smaller buck finally decides, this bigger buck's not going to let me do anything. So he starts walking across the field. He gets pretty far away, and this doe finally spooks a little bit, and she kind of jolts off and then stops at about 40 yards. Well, that bigger buck saw that doe take off, and I think he thought maybe a little buck got in there and was messing with her. Man, this buck come charging in, and he's probably like 135 inch deer, really wide, just kind of short tine. And I'm like, well, I'm going to shoot him. I'm not going to mess around. I'm going to shoot him. He comes in. He stays about 30 yards from me. He stayed behind where that doe was at. And as soon as he stopped, he's looking at the doe, trying to figure out what's going on. Well, I start to draw back, and about the time I got to half draw, he finally looks over at me and like, oh, crap, what's that? I hit anchor. I shoot. And as soon as I shot, he whirled away from me, and I end up hitting him right in the shoulder blade. And, I mean, it sounded like I hit a concrete wall. I knew exactly what happened when I hit him. So doe takes off. The buck stays right with her. My arrow's hanging out of him. I mean, I really didn't get much more than the broadhead in him, it looked like. And I watched him for probably 300 yards go across the field. He stayed right with the doe. They stopped. They're looking back at me. He'd act like nothing even happened. And I'm like, oh, great. I'm never going to find this deer. This is not good. So I go back to the truck, shed some clothes, and I grabbed a little snack. And I just start walking across to where I last saw him, and I found like 2 little pin drops of blood. And I'm like, well, I need to look for him at least. I looked for 3 hours and couldn't find him. And I literally only found 2 little drops of blood. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm never going to find this deer. I know he's probably not going to die. I don't even think I got in there very far. A 30-yard shot with him kind of going away from me at the shot kind of took all that momentum out of my arrow, I think. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to go back to the truck. I'm going to get all my stuff. I'm going to grab a bite to eat, and then I'm going to go back into where I originally wanted to go. So I do that. I get set up. It's like middle of the day, probably like 12:30. It was maybe like 1 or 2 o'clock by the time that happened. So I get back in there, get set up, and it was pretty slow. And the wind kind of picked up in the middle of the day. So every time the wind would die down, I'd grab my grunt call, throw out some grunts like I'm a little buck just harassing the doe. And I did that several times. And about 4 o'clock, wind dies down, I throw out some grunts. And before I could even put my grunt call away, I can hear something walking behind me. And this is the same. He was right over where that other buck and that doe was at, maybe like a week and a half, 2 weeks before that. And I had a video camera with me on my camera arm and everything. So I turned my camera on before I even saw what it was. And I turn around, and all of a sudden, all I see is a giant frame. And I'm like, holy cow, that's a big deer. And I'm like, my first thought was, you have to record this. You have to get this buck on film, because if I don't kill him, nobody's going to believe me. So the problem is he is directly behind my tree. So I turn all the way around on my stand. I'm facing my tree, looking at him. The mistake I made was I took my camera arm and I wrapped it around my body. So I'm right up against the tree with my camera arm wrapped around me, and I'm running it with my right hand. And I'm filming him. He's coming, and he's coming down, and he's just kind of right on a line, coming right for me. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not going to make a peep. He's going to come right to me. So he's getting pretty close, and there's a big ditch in there. And that other buck would not cross that ditch. It's pretty deep. And I'm like, oh, man, he's not going to cross that ditch. He's going to get to that and just walk back and forth and then not see anything like the other buck and then turn back around. Well, he got close to that ditch, and I just figured, okay, I'm either going to keep filming him or I've got to shoot him, one or the other. I can't do both. So I just pushed the camera out of the way. I keep it recording. The buck gets to the ditch, and he didn't even hesitate. He dropped down into that ditch and came right up on the other side of it. Now, when he came up on the other side of that ditch, he's only 17 yards behind me. And he comes up. He's facing me, and he's just standing there. And I'm like, oh, man, I wish I had my camera on him right now. All of a sudden, he throws his head back, and he lip curls 3 times in front of me at 17 yards. And I'm like, oh, God, I wish I had this on camera. This is so sweet. And I'm like, okay, if he turns right, I can maybe get my camera on him and shoot him. If he turns left, I have to shoot him right away, because I use milkweed to check my wind all the time. And I've been throwing milkweed all day. Well, I knew exactly what tree I could not let him get to. And it was probably only 10 yards maybe to the left. Of course, he turns to the left, and as soon as he turned to the left, I start to draw back. And about the time I hit anchor, right when I got the anchor, he looked up at me, and as soon as he looked up at me, the arrow was already gone, and I watched a light and knock literally hit exactly where I was looking. And as soon as it hit, I knew it was over. I started freaking out. He bolts off, and he pretty much jumps into this ditch, and I hear a loud crash, and then it's nothing but silence. He never came out of the ditch. He went maybe 40 yards and was dead. I watched him pretty much fall over. And I start freaking out. I think I thanked Jesus maybe 30 times. I'm like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Oh, thank you, Jesus. Oh, my God. oh, that is a big buck, and I'm freaking out. I grab my camera. It's still recording. I put it on me, and I look like a complete goofball.
Been there.
Yeah. And of course, like, the tip of the day is both of these bucks, I had a mustache.
Oh yeah.
I had a Fu Manchu for the first one, and then I had it pretty much like a porn stash for the other one.
Yes.
So,
I'm cutting a mustache November. Guaranteed.
oh yeah, man. So
Mustache all November right now, going on the book. Live on the podcast.
It's not a bad idea. It worked 2 years in a row for me. So I watched this buck crash, and I'm freaking out. So I grab my phone and I call my dad. Well, he's in West Virginia rifle hunting. There's like rifle season just came in that day. Where he's at, he has no service. So they go straight to voicemail. And I'm like, hey, as soon as you get this, you need to call me. I just killed the biggest buck of my life. This thing is huge. Way bigger than last year's buck. Like, I don't know what he is. He's at least in the 70s, but he's huge. So then I call my wife. I call my buddy that I hunt with all the time. And so it's still daylight. I still got plenty of daylight left. And I call my buddy, and I already knew he was out hunting. He answers, and he's like, what'd you kill? Because he knew if I was calling, I had to have shot something. And I'm like, dude, this thing's big. And he was the one that helped me get my buck out the year prior. And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, he's quite a bit bigger than the buck I killed last year. And he's like, oh, no way. How big do you think he is? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just saw a lot of points, a big frame. Like, he's big. I don't know exactly what he is, but he's big. I think he's in the 70s all day. He's like, I'm heading to the truck. I'll be there in like an hour and a half. And I'm like, okay, I'll wait for you. So I get down, pack all my stuff up, and I'm like, I have to go look at this deer. I can't wait for him. I have to go look. The deer's only 40 yards from me. So I walk down there and find him, and I'm still like, it's like I'm floating. I couldn't believe what was going on. It by far the biggest deer I'd ever shot. So I take a few pictures real quick. I send them to my buddy, and I go back up to the truck, and I was kind of nervous leaving that buck down in there without me being there. But I'm like, well, I don't think anybody's going to be back in here on a Monday. So I'm just going to leave him. I won't be gone for very long. So I went back to the truck, and the funny thing is where I parked, it is only a 400-yard walk to get to where I killed this buck. Now, if you park in the parking spots, it would take you forever to get there. But where I parked was only, 400 yards. So I ended up, I met my buddy. We went in there, took a bunch of pictures, all that good stuff. And then it was pretty much a party. I mean, I had to go to work the next day, but I was up pretty late.
Oh, yeah.
And, I'm calling all my buddies, and I've got buddies calling me that I haven't even texted yet. They're like, hey, man, so-and-so sent me pictures of that buck. That thing is huge. I need to see it tonight. Like, one of my buddies was like, I have to see that buck tonight. I don't care how late it is. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going over to my buddy's house to hang him up. So, if you want to meet me over there at that gas station, come on over. He's like, I'll be there in a half hour. So it's like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. We got to work the next day, but he's like, I've got to come see this deer. So I meet him, and he's like, I've got a 180 on the wall, and this deer's bigger than that. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm not used to shooting deer this big, so I don't know what he is. So, it was just kind of like a big celebration after that, and that buck ended up grossing 197. So, and he had a big point off the base broke off. That would have probably put him over 200 pretty easy. I don't know what happened, how he broke that point, because it's probably the size of my thumb at least, or bigger at the base. But but he's got he's 20 inches inside. He's got 14 scorable points. One main beam was 27 and some change. The other one was quite a bit shorter. I think it was like 24 and some change. But one G2 was over 13. Just really good brows. He had a split brow on the one side and then a big kicker off the other brow. And the one brow's probably 3 inches across, almost 2 or 3 inches across. Like, it's real wide, real bladed. Just a gnarly looking buck. I don't know if I'll ever kill anything that big again, but I'm definitely going to try. So, yeah, so I skipped a year. I almost killed another big deer the following year back here behind my house. And then the following year, I killed a good 8-point with my recurve behind the house. And then last year, I killed a buck on some public. It was a sweet hunt. I probably should have held off. It was only October 6th, but I got a little antsy. I hunted Kentucky early season, had a horrible trip down there, and I had 2 bucks come in on October 6th, working licking branches, exploring, all the cool stuff, and I shot him at 10 yards broadside in a big cattail swamp. I was kind of Dan end fault, so.
Nice. Can't beat that then.
I'd say sometimes the whole scenario just put you in that moment and like, oh yeah, I gotta kill.
Yeah, and the hunt was pretty cool on the buck I killed last year. He was I drug a kayak in like 500 yards according to OnX just to get to water. And I was in a big cattail swamp, so I just got into this water and paddled up like 800 yards up and got in this little 3-trunk willow tree in a saddle. It was my first year saddle hunting. I was like, I'll jump on the bandwagon and try it. So, end up shooting him, and then I hunted Kentucky quite a bit after that. The rest of this season. So, that's my dog.
Sounds like my wife let
dog. Yeah, I'm sitting out here. Out. So.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
All right, perfect. We still got you. Man,
yep.
There's something about when you just kill a giant buck like that. Homie made real good friends with a bush the night I killed the giant.
Yeah.
I did, man.
It's just, this is just a time to celebrate, man, because that stuff, like I said, you want it to happen again in your lifetime, but the chances are, it's tough. You know what I mean? So,
oh, yeah. Yeah, it was a weird night in the woods there. I mean, everything happens for a reason, I guess. That buck I shot in the shoulder earlier that morning.
Yeah, props to you, dude, for having the gumption to go back out after you just shot a buck in the shoulder, and like a lot of guys would be like, man, I'm gonna call it a day. I'm gonna go home, regroup,
shoot my bow.
Yeah,
you just went for it, man.
I knew it was a good day, and I'm like, I can't go home. I did a little bit of stump shooting. That's the good thing about a longbow or recurve. I had a blunt point in my quiver, so I just did a little bit of stump shooting, and I'm like, okay, I feel good about it. Let's get back up in the tree. Let's try to make this happen. And that's the plus of the traditional side. There's plenty of negatives. You're going to make a bad shot every now and again, but that can happen with anything.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But, just especially props to your buddy for coming out to the gas station at, 11:30 midnight. Cody and I got a pretty good buddy, and I was talking to him, and, he don't have friends like that just are, super jacked up to,
oh, yeah,
come see the deer that you just shot and, you worked your ass off to get. And I told him, I said, man, if you kill one of these 2 deer, I said, I'll drive the 2 hours to come up, and
right.
We'll have some beers in the shed, and I'll stay the night, and we'll make it a night and be sure that this deer gets the recognition that it deserves, and the celebration that you deserve.
That's
too.
That's almost the best part, man. Like,
yeah,
it is,
definitely.
The hunt is great, but when you get all your buddies around, like when I killed my giant, Nick was in Nebraska hunting with his dad, and I called him. I'm like, dude, I killed him, and he knew exactly what deer I was talking about. You know what I mean? And I was like, And Nick's like, how big he is? I'm like, dude, he's freaking big. You know what I mean? Like, I don't
is
even
that
know.
the buck? I was scrolling through some of your Instagram stuff. Is that the buck with like that's mounted with like the rub tree?
Yeah. He was 193 and with 3/8 gross.
Dude, that thing's got some awesome mass to it.
Just insane. You know, I mean, we've been hunting him for 3 years. Nick knew about him, found his sheds, gave me the sheds, just solid as hell. And he's in Nebraska, and I call him. I'm like, dude, this deer is big.
We're 500 yards from Nick's house.
Yeah, we're right by his house. You know what I mean? Like, and he's in Nebraska. And I'm like, he's like, how big is he? I'm like, bro. And then he came by my house, and he's like, holy shit. I'm like, I told you. You know what I mean? So those buddies that are hardcore hunters, you know, that understand what we go through day to day, year to year. You know, homie, me and him, homie with me the whole day. We're hanging out. We drag him out. We take him to the locker. We're going out. We go into the bar afterwards. We're having a good time. I go in the bar, and this guy's like, talking deer hunt. I'm like, yeah, I just shot a 193. He's like, really? He's like, oh, I've killed a lot of deer in my life, you know, and the deer is out in the truck, of course.
Yeah, he's like, it's probably not 193.
Like, and then he goes out there and looks at it. He's like, that's probably 193.
Yeah.
So that's the memories, man, where you just.
Oh yeah, the buddies are great. My buddy that, you know, he was hunting. My one buddy was hunting, and he's like, okay, I'm heading to the truck. It's still daylight, but I'll be there an hour and a half.
Yeah, when I shot Freeze, homie, I called homie, and he knew if I was calling him. He heard the shot, of course, and then he was like, hey, he was like, hey, you shoot him? And just like you, when you shoot that caliber of deer, most people are like, oh, yeah, you know it's that big. I told homie, I said, it's a 170. You know, it's a 170.
Yeah.
Like, you don't, in your mind, you can't fathom that you just killed, you know, a mid-190s deer. It just doesn't function there.
Oh, yeah.
That it's that big, you know what I mean?
I had no idea this deer was that big, and you got him skinned out and everything, and I ended up taking him to a taxidermist, and I'm like, you know, I'm going to go ahead and we went ahead and capped him off, and I'm like, I'm going to keep that rack with me so I can show a bunch of people.
I did the same thing, yeah.
Like, plus, I'm not going to leave it at your shop. It's not that I don't trust you. You call me when you need it, okay? I've got to show people.
Yeah, mine was hid in my basement. I just walk downstairs every now and look at it like, damn.
I took mine everywhere with me. I took it to work with me all the time. I mean, you know, I go to like Thanksgiving was like, you know, a few days later after I killed him. I take it to Thanksgiving to show family.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I had it everywhere.
Yeah.
So, I got that buck scored by Buckmasters, and he is. So they have a bunch of different categories for Buckmasters. And are you familiar with like how they score stuff?
I am absolutely not familiar with that.
Okay, so Buckmasters literally they give the deer everything they grow on their head. Like there's no deductions. So pretty much it's like a gross score.
Okay.
But you have no deductions. And they measure stuff maybe like it can be like some real technical stuff could be just a little bit different the way they do it from like Pope and Young and stuff. But I kind of like their scoring system. For the record books, they will be they keep the they don't include the spread. So it's literally whatever the antlers score is what goes in the record book.
Okay.
So so that buck went like 177 with no spread, and I'm in a semi-irregular category with a longbow. So technically, for Buckmasters, he is the world record in semi-irregular with a longbow, and he was at the time with any long like any category with a longbow, he was the top. Until like a month later, a dude entered a buck that he killed like several years prior, and it was like just a little over 200, and I'm like, you gotta be kidding me!
Just crushed my dreams, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, I didn't really care too much about the book stuff, but
there you are with a deer with a broken tine on the base.
Yeah. Oh, come on, man.
Well, I mean, who wouldn't want to be in the 200 club, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I haven't. I usually don't run cameras on public or anything like that. I mean, I have before, but not much. So this year, so I work at an archery shop, and my boss is getting a couple of those Rambo bikes. And I'm like, oh, you know what? I might have to borrow one of those and go into a place and put a camera up here once we get those. So,
man, if Rainbow bikes would be sweet on our public pulling camera stuff, that'd be stat.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give it a whirl. He's getting 2 of them. He's like, oh yeah, man, you know, if I'm not using it and you need it, just grab it and use it whenever you want. I'm like, sweet.
Perfect.
I'm gonna give it a shot. I'm gonna take it down to Kentucky with me. So
I'm gonna say, hell yeah, I don't think it's gonna hurt anything.
No.
Oh no. So I've got a couple deer on some private stuff that I've got my eyes on. One is the one I should have tried to kill last year, but I got a little antsy and shot a buck super early in the season, so I couldn't really. I just ran a bunch of cameras last fall, and of course this buck's on camera like during daylight in November all the time, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And I don't know what he would score. I mean, in some pictures he looks like he's in the 170s, and other pictures he looks like he's low 150s. Like I don't know, but he was a 7x5, really wide. Like he has to be 22 probably inside, I'm guessing. So I was trying to find his sheds this year. I got pictures of them with one antler, and I never found sheds, which is just my luck. I have horrible luck finding sheds anyway, but I've been running some mineral sites and stuff, and this deer has a lot of white on the inside of his legs all the way down, and no other buck has white on their legs like that. So I can tell who it is even without antlers, and I got pictures of him about a month ago. So I know he's still around.
What state that deer in?
Ohio.
Ohio.
What's the latitude, longitude?
No, I was just gonna say about the second to last weekend of September. Just get that mustache going. Pretty much guarantee at that point.
Guaranteed at that point. Get that mustache.
Hey man, I'm gonna try. So, and then there's another farm that I hunt not too far from my house. Guy gave me permission. I was the only one that hunted there. It's about 64 acres, I think. All of a sudden, his daughter decides she wants to bow hunt, and she lives with him. She's, I don't know, like she's around my age probably, but she wants to bow hunt. So, the cool thing is he made her come and talk to me before she just went out and started doing stuff and, maybe screwing stuff up that I've already done. So, I mean, that was cool of them, but, I'm like, I'm not going to tell her, like, hey, stay away from this and this and this, because it's not my property.
Yeah.
So I just said, oh, yeah, go do whatever you want, I'll hunt around you. And, yeah, she's out there almost every day, and she sent me pictures of a giant, though, that she got on camera, and she was in at the shop just the other day, and she was showing me some other pictures of this buck, because she only sent me one, and it wasn't like a great picture. I'm like, hey, you got any other pictures of that buck? Oh, yeah, I got a bunch of pictures. Yeah, he made it through shotgun season. I saw him after shotgun season, so he's still alive, and I'm like, okay, cool. She showed me these pictures. It's kind of a close-up of his rack, and he's got 2, like 3 or 4 inch drop tines on the one side. Off the front of the main beam, he's got another little 2 or 3 inch drop on the other side. He's got 2 kickers off of a G3 on the one side, and what I couldn't see in the picture she originally sent me was he has got a giant split G2 that's like, I mean, the split goes down probably like 8 inches down, like it's deep. And I'm like, oh man, this deer's bigger than what I thought. Like, he very well could have been in the 60s or 70s last year, pretty easy. So I could potentially be hunting some farms with a couple bucks in the 70s or 80s, pretty easy.
Nice, man.
This year,
that always keeps you motivated when you got a 170 you're potentially chasing. So
I'm probably going to whip out the compound a little bit this year. Oh, probably a lot more than I did in the past. So last year was kind of a kick in the shorts for me with my traditional stuff. I missed a handful of deer, and I normally don't do that, and the confidence just isn't there right now. So nothing feels right. So I'm probably gonna kind of break down, and I mean, I've already working in a shop. It's nice I can work on all my own stuff when we're slow. So I've already got my bow shooting broad, fixed blades out to 70 yards. So I'm feeling pretty good.
That would be an interesting conversation to have. Hopefully we can maybe reconvene next year at this time and hopefully talk about 170 with a 3-inch drop tine on a couple sides that you got going on.
That'd be nice.
With the compound this time and see what the difference is in feeling, between a recurve and a compound.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
The interesting thing is I've never killed a buck with a compound. I've killed. I take that back. My father-in-law was shelling corn and found 2 bucks locked up one day, and it was like almost December. I still had a buck tag, and he was like, "Hey, he knows nothing about deer hunting really." He's like, "Hey, there's these bucks out here in the corn, and the one buck's I think they're stuck together, and the one buck's just dragging the other one around. I think that one's dead. You want to come out and shoot this other one?" And I'm like, "Sure, I'll be there." So I end up shooting that buck with a compound, but I mean, I don't really count that.
That's wild.
So this year could be the year I kill him with a compound.
Heck yeah, man. Whatever it takes, man. I'm growing a mustache in November. Whatever it takes. I got to shave my beard in October, mustache all November. It's going down in the books right now. It's going to be thick. Rut stash.
Yeah, see, my problem is I have no chin, so I have a double chin, which just kind of sucks for the mustache game, but if I can kill a good buck, I don't care.
Homie with a mustache, dude. I was just laughing about 3 minutes away from the mic. If homie grows a rut stash, it'll be about 3 hairs, and it'll be just the most beautiful thing you've ever seen. We're both growing rut stashes on the books right now. Rut stashes.
There you go.
Lock it. We locked it in. He can't back up now.
I was just thinking where our YouTube's going to go with you with a rut stash.
Did I click 70s porn or deer hunting? I'm not really sure what's going on right now.
I'm going to be a little superstitious probably. So my wife and I had our son, and literally the 2 years after my son was born in September, and that November I killed the 157, and then the next year I killed a 197. And I'm like, okay,
I had a baby when I killed a 193 in a car seat, man. So might be something to it.
Well, we just had a baby. She's 2 months old.
This is
I'm like,
this is your year.
I told my wife, I said, if I kill another giant, we're gonna have another kid.
Yeah. I would say 207's on the books.
Yeah. If I kill a 200, I'll have another kid. Guaranteed that.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
It's worth it. Roll a dice, man.
I ain't killing shit, I guess.
Man, well, this has been a great episode, man. We appreciate you coming on and telling the story of a couple absolute legendary hunts on public land. I wish you were closer, man. We just hang out on the weekends.
For sure.
Oh, yeah, it'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be fun, but we appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, that's no problem. So I was excited when you guys messaged me, because I'm like, oh man, I just started listening to their podcast like a couple months ago, maybe. So I knew who you guys were. So I haven't listened to a ton of them. I mean, I only live 15 minutes from work, so I could jump in the truck, I start playing a podcast, I get to work, I shut it off. So I'm listening to little bits here and there. If I got to fletch a bunch of arrows at work, I put headphones on, I listen to podcasts. But
well, we appreciate the listens, man. We don't know much, but we kill a few deer every now and then. But we have guys on like you that are badasses, so people will listen. They don't want to listen to us talk.
Yeah, I might not know enough, but if I can get lucky every now and again, it'll work. Something's working for me. So,
woo! Air conditioners on turbo.
Did you hear it the whole time?
Yeah, I heard it the whole time.
All right, I did too.
I don't know how we can get a better episode right here. I don't
really know. A guy with a pretty couple epic stories. Public land.
Yeah.
Recurve. Off the ground.
Yeah, and just making it happen. Wounding that buck and not being like, I'm done for the day, and going in there and then end up killing a 197. Like, I mean, that's just insane. And you can just tell by talking to this guy, it's a solid dude. Like, a good dude to hang out with. And we locked it up right here. November rut stashes. That's what it's going to take for us to kill another giant. If we kill another giant in November, free hat and shirt to Logan here. Guaranteed. Someone hold me to it.
I'll second that.
Yeah. We're going to have rut stashes, and it's going to happen.
we need to get out there on that lake in the kayak in November.
Do you think it takes
scout,
kayak plus
that's what it
rut
takes.
stash? It's like one, both.
What else will blow?
Nothing
will blow. Kayak, rut stash.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right. I know you guys enjoyed this episode. We did a lot. Thank you for listening as always. Try to always do the right thing. Try to leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy is out.